Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. As you may know, I'm an educator and entrepreneur and a professor at the University of Houston Clear Lake. My main goal is to introduce you to pioneers in the field of education and to let you know about topics that you may not be aware of, but you may be interested in. Today, we have the honor to have with us Christian Winn, a successful school administrator and a great role model for many future administrators who are willing to start in this profession. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about this.
Absolutely.
It's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun.
All right, Christian, why don't we allow you to introduce yourself to the audience, kind of talk a little bit about your career and how do you get to where you are right now?
Yeah. So I am a career educator. I graduated from high school knowing that I wanted to be an educator. I went to school to be a teacher. I was a student who really loved science and chemistry and different sciences, so I thought that that was the avenue I wanted to go.
That was your goal.
That was my goal. I thought initially that I would want to be a school counselor, but after becoming a teacher and being in the classroom, I thought that administration was a natural road that I would follow. I have always liked being involved in program development and working with people, always having a close relationship and close working capacity with students. So administration was a natural flow for me. So I was in the classroom for 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was a middle school science teacher. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Before I went to my current school district, I worked in a juvenile justice alternative education program, which was an amazing experience. It was a short-lived experience, but a very eye-opening experience for me. So after teaching, I worked in central office for a few years as a program coordinator, a position called a site director, where I was working with high schools under a high school grant initiative, a reform initiative that was funded by the Annenberg Institute. Again, great learning opportunities with working with various high schools, comprehensive high schools they were called at that time, in my district, and I became a principal, and I currently serve as an assistant principal at a K through 8 school in a large urban district.
Well, and I wanted to follow up on that because I think one of the main characteristics that you have in one of the main topics that I want us to explode today is about being an administrator at an urban school in a big city, which you are. So I wanted to ask you, what does it mean to be a school administrator in an urban school at a big city? And how does a normal day in your life look like? And what are the differences with other type of schools? In a, I would say, a regular school, in a rural school, in a small town versus what your day by day look like. In terms of duties and anything that you want to mention that you think may be relevant.
So other than my student teaching experience, which was in a rural, small town outside of Texas, other than that, I've always worked in a large urban setting.
Okay.
So my perspective is somewhat limited in the comparisons.
To compare,
yeah. So I will say, though, that semester that I was in a rural area, it was very different. I worked in a high school setting. I worked under the supervision of a very experienced and successful and highly esteemed teacher. So I quickly learned that your reputation, your professional reputation, is very important, and that people do not really care so much about what you say. They care about what you do, and the great things that you do over the years count. Like people respect it, and people, it really matters to a lot of people. So working under her, I learned that years and generations of students come through, and those folks that you gain those relationships with, they count on you
within that context of
yeah,
of a
within
rural,
that
small town,
context
yeah.
in that small town.
Yeah.
Miss Arrington was a teacher who not only went to that school, she was from that town, she went to that school, she was classmates with her students' parents. So she knew generations through that town.
So she had that bond that made
Yeah.
make things a little bit easier in terms of relationships and
Yes,
bonding.
yes. So because she was so active in the school, she was, for example, the cheerleader sponsor, the cheerleader coach, and her daughter went to the school. She knew everyone. If she went to the town Walmart, she was like the mayor, walking
Exactly.
through the Walmart.
Yeah.
So the perspective in terms of being in that setting is, for me, is that your life is somewhat under a microscope. But I can't say that that's very different from being in an urban setting. But everyone in that small rural town knew her and knew the teachers and the principal and all the administrators at that school. They counted for something. They were very important people in that town. And being in an urban setting, obviously it's larger. The context is different. The needs are somewhat different. I say that kids in every setting have needs. Families have needs. They just may be packaged a little differently. They may look a little different, but when you really get down to it and peel the onion, many of them are the same.
Correct.
When you
get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, when you get to the bottom of it, a lot of it is the same. But in terms of a normal day, I can't say that there really is. There are no 2 days that are the same.
Exactly.
The key to surviving that type of normalcy, because it's normal to not be so predictable and to have the same type of day, is being flexible and listening, knowing that 90% of our job as administrators is about managing interruptions and helping people get to the bottom of their issue. Like that is
Exactly.
that is so much of our job.
But I guess picking up what you're saying, I guess people may be curious about how do you deal, especially in your campus that you have is K through 8, right? So in a big city, the component of diversity, multicultural, and maybe somehow lack of long-term relations, because people tend to probably be a little more volatile in terms of the mobility rate may be higher in that context. Is it hard, for example, as a school administrator, what are the biggest challenges as a school administrator when you have such a diverse group of students and parents, and to, for example, implement programs or discipline students or sometimes communicate, expectations or.
Well, in the absence of not bringing people to the table and not listening to the needs and the desires, sometimes the agendas, and I'm okay with people having agendas because we all have an agenda.
Correct.
Is in the absence of that, there can be many challenges. But if you bring people to the table and you listen to the diverse needs, and find how we can meet all of those needs together, there may be some compromising there, but if you bring folks to the table and listen to what the needs are, sometimes people just want to be heard. They want to know that you hear them, that what they say matters to you, and that you're listening. So
having a little bit of open mind in terms of,
yeah.
what about dealing with factors such as religion?
Yeah.
When
So
you have such a
we
diverse.
yeah. I deal with that all the time. I work in a very diverse setting, a very diverse community. My school community
with really particular needs, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's very diverse. I may have a student who comes and says, you know, Ramadan starts tomorrow, and my bus leaves too early for me to pray, and my parents can't get here too late. My parents come too late when they get from work. So may I have a place to pray? Absolutely.
Exactly.
Let me
So you have to
let me find a space. Tell me what you need.
Correct.
So I listen to that. What do you need? Well, I need a quiet place. I need a place to leave my prayer mat. I need it to be excluded where I can pray in a particular direction. All of that. I listen to that, and I will make that work. How long do you need this space? 7 days. Okay, we'll make that work. We'll place a do not disturb notice on the door so that no one comes into that room. I'll tell the folks in the office or the cleaning crew that this student is going to be in this room, or these students will be in this space for 30 minutes on these days. Let's please make sure that this space is treated in a sacred manner. So it's just about listening.
So I have a follow-up question to that. So what about your staff? I mean, how do you make your staff be on the same page that you are in terms of, do you provide multicultural awareness training? I mean, because sometimes it's hard to get, especially for new teachers or new administrators who get to that type of setting, coming from like rural places.
Sure.
Could be sometimes
what?
challenging. Yeah, because everybody's uniform in the other level.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
you know, what do you do to make them get in the same page in terms of providing the service that these students need?
So you sometimes it starts in hiring. It starts with hiring people with open minds and folks with a open disposition. People with a flexible mindset and not just so fixed that it only can happen this way. And also just through conversation. So this is what our students need. So let's talk about how we can meet the needs of our students. How can we all get on the same page? And when there is an issue, when we're stuck, let's talk through that so that we can move forward. I think teachers are good people. I agree. You know,
Naturally,
I just I was a teacher, so I hold us in very high esteem. But excuse me, I don't think that anyone is ill. I just don't think people come ill-willed.
Correct.
So let's talk through the part where we're stuck, and let's try to get to this place where the students' needs are met.
What about trickle it down to the curriculum, though, to the classrooms, to the lesson planning? Because sometimes, you and I know that sometimes the state standards and the federal standards could be a little rigid in terms of, okay, this is what we expect, and regardless of socioeconomic status, ethnicity, what type of system do you think, administrators should put in place when dealing with urban, highly diverse schools, to make sure that the students are able to achieve at the level that they can, regardless of their ethnicity or socioeconomic background?
So I'm very fortunate to work in a district that has a really high performing curriculum department and professional development department. So a lot of the groundwork is done in my district. We can call on our curriculum department, our specialists. We have relationships with them where they'll come out and meet with our teachers. So that in that regard, we start
There's a lot
ahead.
of support.
Yes, it's a lot of things already in place.
Yeah.
And I realize that that's not necessarily the story in all districts. And so we start with that already in place. But at the campus level, it's important to provide the time and in some ways the direction for the teachers. So not that they need to be micromanaged, but provide the time and the infrastructure to allow teachers to come together and plan, to exchange resources, to share resources with one another, to even sometimes practice lessons, practice what we're going to do as a team. not just across their grade level, but also vertically. So allowing time for teachers to come together and look at the curriculum going up and down so that it's coherent and it just makes sense to what we teach.
And I think another component that I guess what you're talking about is also establishing those relations with your students, because that way you can diversify and have really truly differentiated instruction for them based on their needs, their backgrounds.
And I have a great group of teachers I'm thinking of as you say that, who administered a fall semester survey to get feedback from parents and students about how well they're teaching. What else can we do going forward in this second half of the year? What are some needs that you have that we haven't met, or that we can work together more closely to better meet? And so those kinds of folks who are always on the quest to answer those questions, to meet the needs, are the ones who are really getting the work done. And there are lots of teachers doing that.
What about parents though? I mean, is it more challenging at an urban context versus a rural context to reach parents and get them involved, or you think you see the same challenges, type of challenges? And is it harder from the administrative perspective to deal with such a diverse group of parents in terms of needs?
Again, I think when you sit back and listen and learn some of the cultural mores and understand what the parents' goals are for their children, it gives you an opportunity to align your school's values and your school's vision with what the two of you are trying to achieve and find a middle ground. Again, parents, they love their children. They send us the best they have. And they want their kids to be successful. I'm a parent. I want my kids to be successful. And I don't believe that the parents at any school want anything other than that for their children. Are the needs different in a rural setting, or is it more challenging? I can't say it's more challenging. I just think it looks a little different sometimes. So in a rural setting, the teachers may live right next door to their students, or on the same street, or in the county, just right down the road. Whereas in a rural setting, urban setting rather, we're more spread out. But it's still all about coming to the table and having those critical conversations about what the kids need to be successful. What's the school's vision? How do we see our role in achieving the vision with the students? And then what are some of the goals the parents have for them?
Now, in terms of the students, how do you, because you and I know that everybody's held, nowadays in the world, that public education world, that everybody's held accountable in terms of, standardized testing and college rating standards. So how do you make sure that type of diverse population achieve the standards regardless of their belief system, regardless of their background? What type of processes, and I know you have been working lately with a district type initiative trying to standardize, share with our administrators or new administrators or future administrators who are looking at us right now, and what type of system can you put in place in an urban school in a big city that can effectively not only track students but help them achieve their academic goals?
So obviously there's some technology infrastructure to put in place, and that requires resources at the school level and at the district level in terms of tracking student progress. My district has really been moving forward in making that very important for us. So we have two really big systems that we're using at my campus that are from the district that are really in place to help us monitor student progress, to accelerate students who are ready to move on, and to provide that remediation and intervention that's needed for students who need extra support.
It's like a massive data collection.
Oh yeah,
software
and
too.
having that data today, not 3 days from there now, not two. I mean immediately, just in an intervention team meeting last week. One of the teachers on my team came into the meeting saying, "We just finished this progress monitoring. This is the student's reading level 20 minutes ago." So having that data right at your fingertips and knowing at all times where students are, what particular needs they have by standard is important for teachers. So we're not playing a guessing game. So parents understand this is where we're targeting the intervention. The students understand that because they should own a stake in this as well. I understand that I'm working toward, comparing, ordering, and using decimals and fractions. They need to know that that's something that they're working toward and that it matters. So why does it matter? Well, you need this to be successful in 5th and even 7th grade math. So the students being owners of their own learning.
And that data is shared with the students.
It's shared with the students. We have conversations with the students.
And parents, I guess.
And we use that data with parents. So the alignment of the data and how it's used is very important. But your question was really about how do we put those systems in place.
Right.
So the district really does, my district does a great job of communicating very early that this is something that we're putting in place to go live next school year. So we'd like for all administrative teams to be a part of this training. Think about how this will look on your campus and who needs to be a part of not only the training, but also the development of it. What will the implementation look like on your campus? So having those conversations in May and June and allowing that to brew over the summer and having all those systems in place for your particular campus in August is part of that timeline that's critical to implementation that's successful.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, what about staying in this student topic a little bit? How do you deal with bullying, knowing that you have different backgrounds?
Yeah.
However, you may have certain type of population being a majority, or maybe not. But how do you deal with that factor, which is a really current factor across schools nowadays?
Yeah, like kids are committing suicide
Correct.
from years or
Correct.
periods of bullying.
Correct.
So it's a very serious matter. It's something that I take seriously, and we take it seriously at my campus, and in my district, as a matter of fact. But part of it is really bringing forward the importance of it, having conversations, not just one, but multiple conversations with teachers and parents about what it looks like, what it is, and what it is not. Many of I'm getting to the age where you hear people say, "Oh, we had that happen when I was a kid, and we just we didn't have a name for it."
Correct.
I was
dealt with it,
I was getting bullied on the school bus. I got bullied walking home. And sometimes people's own experience causes issues to get watered down.
Correct.
Because, hey, I survived it, I'm
not
fine.
a big deal, let it fly.
It's not a big deal. Well, we have so many forms of bullying now, with kids being cyberbullied, and things going on for such a long period of time, unnoticed by any of the adults around them, that it is a very serious issue. So just having systems in place for students to report bullying, and also for everyone on the campus. So it's part of the campus conversation and language that bullying is unacceptable. Our students know that they can submit a bullying report form. They can do that to with any adult on the campus, and that within 24 hours we address that. We pull the student, we talk to the student, we inform the parents that this is going on. The parents have a reporting medium where they can report online. I mean, just having those systems in place is really important, and letting everyone know this is important to us. We care about our climate and our environment being bully free. But the other side of that, at one point, there was a lot of anxiety, and again, as a parent, I understand because kids are losing their lives behind being bullied. But there was a lot of heightened anxiety for a period of time where, someone was staring at me, was bullying. Well, that might be more of a conflict.
Correct.
Let's learn how to resolve conflicts.
Correct.
So you put programs.
Defining exactly what bullying is.
Let's define
what conflict
it.
is.
So something that happened one time is not what we consider bullying.
Correct.
We define bullying as something that is an imbalance in power.
Correct.
It occurs over a period of time,
Correct.
and there is a motive. There is a
Correct.
distinct motive in what that student is
Correct.
trying to achieve. So being clear that everyone understands what bullying is and what it is not is really important in how your school addresses it, because you could be answering bully report forms about little issues that could just be more of conflicts. But also something that our counselors do very well is help establish programs. So
I was going to ask you about that. The role of school counselors in an urban school, because that's a hot topic in itself. But we always have that debate between administrators and what is the true role of school counselors in schools.
They are invaluable.
All right, and sometimes they're misused. Sometimes they're used for administrative jobs instead of doing counseling. So what about the role of that?
And so our counselors have been very dedicated over the years to maintaining our No Place for Hate designation. Through the American Defamation League, and just making sure that our campus has or embodies the values of being a no place for hate campus. So everyone is accepted. We respect diversity. We honor our differences, those kinds of values, and that our students can speak to that our teachers understand and can speak to that with our students. Also having a conflict resolution cadre of students. So we have peer mediators at my school, and those are students who are specifically trained in a peer mediation program, a research-based program that our counselors train the students on, and they help resolve conflicts with their peers. And it happens very organically many times. Many times it's over lunch where we have peer mediation in the conference room, and kids know that if you have a conflict, you ask if you can come in and have a peer mediator help you resolve it. And the folks who are having the conflicts come together, and these are 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, 7th graders who are mediating these situations. And so it's counselors who lead that work and keep it at the forefront, because it is important and it can easily get lost. But the value of it, the outcome of having those kinds of programs, which some people say, oh, those are soft programs, those those don't get our test scores up. But that in actuality they do, because they create a safe, campus climate. Your environment is a place where kids are jumping out of the car to run into your school because they know that's a place where they're safe.
Research proved that. You're absolutely spot on in that. Now I want to ask you, going to another topic. Is the topic related to two follow-up questions real quick before we finish? Number one is, what about languages? When you have different languages, so how do you have interpreters? Available in the district? How do you address the different languages you have in a school so it's that diverse?
And so we have several languages at my school through our population. First, starting with the Regional Day School Program for the Deaf. We house a preschool program starting at age 3 through 8th grade for deaf and hard of hearing students. And the first piece of that is, in order for that to be successful, is having interpreters at all times for students, for parents who are deaf or hard of hearing. And if we need it for staff, we have interpreters. So we work very closely with our Office of Special Education to ensure that we have all our program dates sketched out, that we have the number of interpreters that we need. Our campus-based interpreters are part of the master schedule building and being a part of, the coordination of interpreters. They work closely with the teachers, so they understand what they're interpreting in the classroom.
That's super important.
Absolutely. And it's always a work in progress, something that we are continually working to get better, but giving
you have system in place
yeah,
for others that does the
yeah, and giving the interpreters the time they need to prepare for interpreting, you know. So in terms of the American Sign Language, the ASL that we have for interpreting instruction and interpreting school programs, it is a partnership between the teachers and the interpreters. So the teachers work really hard to make sure the interpreters have the information, that they have time to prepare, that they understand the audience for which they're interpreting, and just giving them the respect and the advance notice of what their role will be at different times. In terms of the languages, we work very closely with our Translation Services Office. It is a central office department. And whenever we have some of those more rare languages, we try to work with them more in advance so that the cultural piece is considered. So not taking for granted that all parts of a certain country are the same and that the dialect is not going to impact the interpreting. So sometimes when you need, for example, a Farsi interpreter, you need a Farsi interpreter from a certain region of the Middle East, or from a certain region of North Africa. So those kinds of considerations have to be made, and it all comes with experience. You know, you learn, you know more, so you do more.
Correct.
So
fantastic.
yeah, so that's kind
Well,
of.
and the other question that I
way
want to
that
ask you before we close it up is the relationship of school administrator from urban school in a big city with central office administration. You know, being such a big district, you know, how do you do to sustain effective and successful relation with central office, having too many bosses, having too many directions, and you know, in such a vast district?
Again, it always goes back to communication. As large as my district is, you would think that, you know, no one knows each other. We all somehow know one another. And you know, I've been in the district for many years, and so over that time you build relationships with people. There are folks in central office with whom I was a teacher. So, you know, we have strong relationships. Being a part of planning teams and ad hoc committees and all of those kinds of opportunities that are afforded to you from the campus level to administration gives you an opportunity to have a voice and to be able to gather information when you need it, to get feedback. But we're not, in my district, we're not us against them. We're all, we're a team. We're all one, we're all one family. And so we know that that everyone is a phone call or an email away. Getting help to the campus, it's just a matter of you expressing the need and you know, being able to ask for what support you need, following through if necessary. But we have great support, you know, in my district in getting that help.
Now, to close it up, Christian, what recommendations will you give to any future administrator who are about to get into an urban school in a big city, for them to become successful administrators and also, you know, remain in the positions, you know, for helping kids?
So you have to love it.
Okay.
If you don't love kids, if you don't love teachers, it is going to be a really tough job.
Exactly.
It's going to be a really tough job for you. And if you just don't thrive on working with people, being able to keep your cool, no day is going to go the way it's planned. And I am an admitted checklist freak. I love a to-do list. I wake up to write a to-do list. I mean, that is my thing. But I also go into it knowing that there may be 7 things on this list and only 2 of them get done today. And that's okay. But I have helped, I've relieved, I have listened to countless people today. And I've helped them to resolve some kind of issue, or I've been a part of a conversation that may have just happened impromptu, but it was meant to happen. And so that wasn't on my list of things to do, but it was meant to happen, and it's a good thing that it did. So just being flexible, being a good listener, going into it assuming goodwill, knowing that, you know, folks come with needs, and we're here to support them. That, you know, that's why we're here. You know, that's very important. And don't be so fixed on, you know, this is the only way it can go. This is the way it has to happen. The only thing I'm like that about is about kids. Is that we meet the needs of kids. There's no one way to do that. But that is a must. You know, that part is not negotiable. That part is not negotiable. But how we do that, we can negotiate all day long, you know, because you may have a smarter way of doing it than I ever could consider, you know. So,
well, thank you so much, Mama.
It is my pleasure.
For being here with us today. And folks out there, remember that we have this video and many others at Antonio Corrales' YouTube channel and sterlingevaluationsandassessment.com. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you next time.
Thank you all for watching.